Give all the arguments you want on Judgment Day. But I am not going to go and vote. No, not in an election in a secular state. Rather, the Sharia requires the restoration of the Khilafah. And you can't restore the Khilafah by taking the Islamic movement and transforming it into a political party and then fighting in elections and forming alliances with Tom, Dick and Harry. And you expect you're going to bring back the Khilafah that way? No, that's not possible. Until such time as we can restore the Khilafah and Darul Islam, and knowledge has disappeared to such an extent today, there is such widespread ignorance in the world of Islam today that hardly anyone knows what is Darul Islam today. You know what it is to be a Malaysian citizen and an Egyptian citizen, and you have no problems at all in applying for a visa to perform the Hajj. But if one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ were to come back today, would he go to a Saudi consulate to apply for a visa to perform the Hajj? That is a pathetic state of ignorance of the subject today. Nobody knows the subject. Until such time as we can restore the Khilafah, how do we deal with the subject of Sharia? The answer is, if you cannot restore Sharia at the macro level, then at least restore it at the micro level. Allah does not call upon you for that which lies beyond your capacity. Ittaqullaha mastata'atum. He says in Surah Al-Taghabun, fear Allah to the extent that you have capacity to do so. And so try to restore the Sharia at the micro level. There's an Imam in Eastern Parkway in Brooklyn, in New York, African American, tall like a coconut tree, powerful man, Imam Ibrahim. And the African American people, if they commit zina, they have no problems in going to the Imam and say, Imam, I committed zina. Yeah. They're not like us. They have that sincerity in their hearts. So they confess, I committed zina. So the Imam will roll up his sleeves. I'm talking about New York, eh? And two of his officers, two of his men will bring you into the masjid, and he'll roll up his sleeve and he'll give you a beating in the masjid. You think Uncle Sam has ever done anything to stop him? No. No. وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجٍ. Who has fear of Allah in your heart, Allah will open a way for you. So we have said, until such time as the Khilafah is restored and the Sharia is restored, you can't restore Sharia and still remain a member of the United Nations organization. What nonsense is that? You can't have Sharia and you're still a member of the International Monetary Fund, which prohibits the use of gold as money. Dr. Mahathir did not know that. What nonsense is that? How can you restore Sharia when you're under the obligation of all those resolutions of the United Nations, which bind you and tie you all around? Until such time as we can restore Khilafah, which in my opinion is Imam al-Mahdi, until that time, what we do is withdraw to the countryside, to Kampung, and there build micro-Islam and enforce Sharia to the extent that we have capacity to do so. Number two, there is a difference between signs of the last day which pertain to the Sa'ah, in which the sign of all signs is not that the mountains are going to be flying like pieces of cotton wool and the graves are going to open out No. There is a sa'a which comes before that. That is the end of the world. And at that time when the world is to end, before that happens, Allah will send like a gas out of the sky. And whoever has even a grain of a mustard seed of faith in the heart and inhales that gas will die. So the last hour will not come on anyone who says Allah, Allah, Allah with his heart. But if you see the Shaykh after the gas has come, and he's there with his big hat and he's giving very eloquent lectures on Surah al-Kahf, we still alive? Implication? It's just words. It's just words. He does not have even a grain of a mustard seed of faith in his heart. The last hour will come on such people. But before that last hour comes, there's another last hour. And in this last hour, there is the triumph of truth over all rivals. And at the heart of that last hour, I call this the end of history, and I call that the end of the world. At the heart of this alamatu sa'a is وَإِنَّهُ, the Qur'an says, La Ain Lam Mim. And this Ain Lam Mim can be read two ways. It could be وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, the knowledge of the hour. Surely he is the knowledge of the hour, he being Nabi Isa alayhi salam. That's the context of the passage. But it can also be pronounced differently. وَإِنَّهُ لَعَلَمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, and surely he is the sign of the last hour. The sign of all signs is the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. When he comes back, at that time, yes, there will be believers left in the world. And most of them are going to be in the Holy Land, which indicates that probably the American continent will probably be bare. No human beings left on the American continent. Europe, bare, no human beings there. I, of course, can be wrong. I've made mistakes in the past. But all the indicators are that we are moving in the direction of nuclear warfare between the two contending powers. On one side is Russia and China, and on the other side is the Anglo-American-Israeli alliance. And if that nuclear war takes place, it's going to be thousands of nuclear weapons. Every nuclear weapon that explodes produces a mushroom cloud. So if thousands of nuclear weapons explode, that's dukhan, that's the smoke. It's going to incinerate every city. Is there anything in the Quran that tells us something about this? It is in Surah al-Isra, if I can remember the ayah now. I can't remember the ayah, I'm too tired. But in Surah al-Isra, Allah says that He's going to destroy every town and every city. And those which escape destruction will be punished with terrible punishment. Maybe I'll remember the ayah before we end. So there is something in the Quran which confirms this universal destruction of all towns and all cities. And I think that the electronic waves with which you are able to use this thing called the cell phone and the wireless internet, will also transmit that which will incinerate us. Incinerate means to burn you, to become ashes, when that nuclear warfare takes place. And the only people who will escape will be those who follow the example of the young men of Surah Al-Kahf, who fled, who withdrew from society and went to the cave. And we want to do the same thing, but to withdraw to the remote countryside. We know that we're in kampung when we cannot use a cell phone. Next question.
Now, you mentioned in your speech about the intervention of Al-Jazeera, you mentioned about CNN, then you mentioned about the difficulty in obtaining the visas and getting finances and so on and so on. Now, excuse me, the happening in the Arab world, the upheaval now, how does it culminate from? Is it from the infiltration of the Western agents? Or because of the failure of the government, of Islamic government in the states of Arab world? Now, which is the right thing?
Okay. Yeah. I gave a lecture on this subject with Jamaluddin here. Jamaluddin organized that lecture in April at the University of Malaya, and the lecture is on the internet, an Islamic view of the current Arab uprisings. Was that the topic? Yeah. So please listen to that lecture. I also have an essay on my website on the same subject, an Islamic view of the current Arab uprisings. Our analysis is that while we commend those who rise up against oppression and seek to extricate themselves from oppression and who hate the oppressor, that what is now happening in the Arab world also has an agenda that lies behind this. If you deny the rain from falling for long enough, the land will become parched and dry, and just one matchstick is all you need to create a conflagration that will burn down thousands and thousands of acres of land. One matchstick. That's what they did. The banking system in particular, the monetary system in particular. And not only that, but they're the ones who put these dictators there, and they kept them there. And they forced the dictators to act brutally towards their own people. They did that for long enough to ensure that the land becomes parched and dry, and the people are groaning through oppression, and they're longing to get out. And then they came with the match. And when they lit the match, of course the whole thing blew up. But they are the ones who planned the timing. The Arab uprisings are taking place now for a particular reason. It's not happening in a vacuum. It's happening because of a particular reason. We have reached that moment in time. My book, Jerusalem in the Quran, explains the subject. When stage 2 of Dajjal's mission is coming to an end, and phase 3 is commencing. In phase 1 of Dajjal's mission, the world experienced Pax Britannica, with Britain as the ruling state. In phase 2 of Dajjal's mission, the world experienced Pax Americana, with United States of America as the ruling state. We say these things are not happening by accident. If this can be by accident, a cow can also jump over the moon.